Welcome to WowZap. It's a 3-day event. The first day, which is this one, is the seminar session, and just to remember to mute my phone. Yes. During these 3 days, we're going to go through about Windows, some of the Windows Phone 8 stuff also, and also covering Windows Azure, so the cloud computing platform. I'm going to move these away, so don't need to share those. The time is up. All right, so what I'm going to do within this first 1 hour or 45 minutes, I'm going to go through kind of the Windows 8 platform itself. It is overview on the platform, how you use that. I'm using some examples for the applications that we built or the partners have built in Finland, and also looking at the charms, looking at the contracts, and looking at the sharing and file pickers and that kind of stuff. I'm not going so deeply into the design itself. We have a separate session about that given by Jeremy later on today. And also, this first session is, as I said, it's an overview. It's not coding. It's not. I'm probably not opening Visual Studio unless there's a question that we need to cover during the presentation. I'm okay with the questions during the presentation also. So if you have anything on your mind, just raise your hand and ask the question. I'm okay to take the questions also in Finnish, so don't be shy on that side too. There's my contact information. That's my Twitter feed. If you have any concerns, any questions related to Windows 8, Windows Phone, Azure itself, how to get into the BizSpark program, which is a really cool program for companies less than 5 years old, which net revenue is less than $1 million. When they join the program, it's totally free. You get a lot of benefits through that, and it needs to be privately owned. So if those criteria hit you and you see that, hey, we're actually that kind of company, that's definitely something that you want to look into. What that brings to you, it brings you all the tools, all Microsoft tools, or the full versions of the tools. It brings you 1,500 hours of computing time on Azure. So if you are ramping up with this business idea, that's an awesome way to actually get started. It doesn't cost anything to join the program, and you get a lot of free computing time on the server side. And especially when startups get to do new things, they need to ramp up. Normally, you don't have 100 million customers right away. That would be a positive problem if that would be the case, but normally that's not happen. So therefore also the Azure offer that all the BizSpark partners get is really valuable, because you pretty much have no cost on that side either in the beginning. When we're talking about Windows 8, and I'm going to concentrate Windows 8 in this talk, we're talking about a huge new kind of opportunity. So in the world, based on IDC, there is 32 million Macs, 196 million iOS, and that includes the tablets and the phone. We want to be really fair with this slide over here. So we're talking about all of those devices. On Android side, there's 345 million devices worldwide, globally. Tablets and phone joined together or combined together. And on Windows, but only Windows 7 side, we have 690 million devices out there. We're not counting the XP devices, we're not counting the Vista devices. If we would count those, that would be probably around 1.2, 1.3 billion or even more. All of the Windows 7 devices are really easily upgradable to Windows 8. At the moment, if you want to update your existing Windows 8 device, Windows 7 device, it costs a huge amount of money. You need to pay 30 euros for that. So just go to Microsoft FI and order that from there. So you get an upgrade. It's a full version of Windows 8 you get with 30 euros. So that's not so much, right? But when we think about the scale and we think about how much devices we have and only concentrating on the Windows 7 devices now, even though most of the other devices are also upgradable, there could be some of those really grandma old machines that you shouldn't even use anymore. But there are those. Not all of the devices are running Windows 8, but most of those are. Think about this. If you would be building an application or a game, really, really simple game, which would cost, you would be selling that game with €2, €2.50. And that game would be like having a bunny jumping around and you just need to hit that bunny with your finger. Really simple game, you probably build that game in 1 month or 2 weeks or even less, depends on your skills. That would be some kind of game that people would download and buy when they are sitting in the bus station or waiting an airplane to take off or something like that. So €2 wouldn't be so much to pay. So if we think about these 690, around 700 million devices, and let's be really, really careful with these numbers. So let's assume, even though we, Microsoft, we're aiming to get full upgrades, or the full range of upgrades to all of the users. That's the reason we set the price so low. It's 30 euros. But let's be really careful with the numbers. So only 10% in the world would upgrade to Windows 8. So you just lost 90% of the customer base for your Windows 8 app, the game. From that 10%, only 10% would be that audience that you try to sell that, or you think that those would be your optimal audience to buy your app. Okay. From that group, only 10% would download the trial or your application to test that out, or consider to buy that. And from that group, only 10% would buy that. How much money you just made? Anyone? 140,000 euros. With your really, really simple game that almost no one bought. Only 10% of the 10% of the 10% of the 10%. So the scale is huge on Windows 8, on Windows platform. It is huge. This is the reason why that platform matters when you think about, should I build my application on that or should I not? We sell around 300,000 Windows devices every year in Finland. It is estimated that there would be 450 million devices sold next year of Windows 8 devices. All of the new devices that we sell will be Windows 8 devices. So, just to put that to a perspective, how big the opportunity is on that side when you are aiming on a global level. Just to show the numbers for Finland too. So we have a lot of Android phones, a lot of tablets, a lot of iPhones, a lot of iPads, and a lot of OS. We combine these, we still have a lot of Windows, only in Finland. So if it's a locally relevant application or game that you're building and you're not aiming to other countries, that's fine. But still, you have a lot of customer base over there. This is a reason why it matters to think about that. We will talk about the great experience, the fast and fluent approach with Windows 8 during this day. We are going to, tomorrow in the workshop, we are going to actually sit down, hands-on, start doing implementing all the different features that we're talking today. We're going to implement the contracts for sharing and searching and doing a file picker and doing a live task and so on. If you don't know what a live tile is or what is a search, or contract itself, you will not. We will tell you. Tomorrow after the workshop, which starts, I think, 9 o'clock-ish. I'm not sure. I think it was, yes, people are nodding yes. 9 o'clock, ends at 5 o'clock p.m. And after that happens something really, really cool. We actually start coding our own project. We have over 30 mentors coming from different countries and from the key partners in Finland. Mentoring and teaching and helping you guys to build your first idea, first application. Or if you already have an idea or you even have an application that you would just like to finalize and tweak that. We have around 10 or 12 pro designers on site helping you to tweak that up to make sure that the experience is the best that it could be. So we don't have a crystal ball. They are all estimations, how much we will sell, how much people will buy Windows 8. But if you think about it, we have this huge event called DigiExpo. How many of you were in DigiExpo last weekend? 1 day? 2 days? 3 days? That's probably the joy of this work, to actually spend 3 days in DigiExpo. But the feedback over there was really, really good. People love that. Why? It's good, it's new, it's fresh, it's fast. And you don't need to compromise at all. If you want to use tablet, you use tablet. If you want to use your desktop PC, you use your desktop PC. But your experience it flows from one device to another. It's not anymore that, okay, you're buying a tablet, so there's a tablet. There's no choices. If you want to have a version that is secure and doesn't have flaws with the security, you drop all of these devices. And then you probably take this one. But with this one, if you go to a meeting, you need to have, in another hand, you need to have your laptop, because you need to also work. So what Windows 8 does, it combines all of this together. So the same application that runs on Windows 8 for tablets, it runs on all of the other Windows devices also. So this is IDC's forecast for how the growth is going. PC markets, the growth has been slowing down, and the tablets are taking over on that side. And people love tablets, and I totally agree. It's really good experience to sit down on your couch and browse the web and do all the things that you want to do with it. But before today, or before 2 weeks ago, we couldn't do all of the stuff that we wanted. If I want to use my SAP client on my tablet, because I'm forced to do that, because we use that in our office, or if I have some other application, we don't use that but as an example. So that would be something that I would like to do. With Windows 8, I can do that, because Windows 8 devices also have a desktop side which supports all the Windows 7 applications that I perhaps have purchased already, some games or something like that. So the whole thing with Windows 8, also Windows Phone, and the UI, the new design, the Microsoft design that we have, started from the idea that how the people are behaving, how people are using devices, what is the most easiest way, intuitive way to actually use device. And for sure, it's not menu or tabs. If you think about the user experience and what is usable, it's not that you need to tab, you need to click tabs to find out what you have underneath it. So we are going to hear a lot about that today, also in Jeremy's talk, and I'm going to give a sneak peek for the UI itself in really soon. Somebody is tweeting something over there. Anything positive? Oh, I just saw it. So the first thing we did, and it's really, really important, is that the experience and how you use the application on Windows 8 are fast and fluid. We are concentrating on the content, not the Chrome. The reason for that one is it doesn't make any sense to have the Chrome taking the real estate over there when we could make sure that the users are concentrating on the content and the task that we want to provide to the users. We have this. Are you going to talk about best at statement? Best at statement, are you going to talk about that? A little bit, okay. There is a term called best at statement, which is the one sentence that you define, my application is best at its category because, and then it provides the best experience for reading RSS news or buying pink shoes for men or whatever that would be, depending on the customers that they want to buy. But the reason for concentrating on the content is that with that approach, you make sure that the users see what you want them to see. If you put a lot of stuff on the same canvas, you get the users confused. How many of you have been or visited doctor in some history? Not all? Just checking everybody's awake? Yes? So, at least in Finland, if you go to a doctor and they enter your information like your social security number and your name, it takes terribly long time to enter those two information. Have you noticed that? Like they're going over to the system and going somewhere else and going another place and doing something, typing something, hitting spacebar, doing that, doing this, to enter two freaking information. Instead, if the UI would be in the first place, concentrating in the way that what they need to do really fast and fluent, that would make the experience better, and the customers wouldn't need to wait, just that the nurse would enter some really simple information. So we all know in Finland that there is a huge issue anyway, the user experience on that side. But anyway, it's a good example how simple thing can be so complex. The other one is that when you're building application and all the applications on the modern UI side and Windows 8 are touch, mouse, and keyboard enabled. What that means is if you build an application and you're using the built-in controls, you actually get the whole thing for free. You build your application thinking about the touch, and you get the whole all the other features for free. So users that don't have touch-enabled devices, if they have a desktop machine which doesn't have a touch support, it doesn't matter. They can use all the same features and gestures, slightly different way because they're using mouse and keyboard. But still, you have all the same key shortcuts with on Windows side that you're already used to. You can use your mouse to do the same things that you can do with your touch. So another thing for that one is that, and I really want to emphasize this, Windows 8 is not only a tablet OS. It is a Windows OS, Windows operating system for all of the devices, all of the PC devices. We do have a certain one of the special version also Windows 8, which is called Windows RT. So some of the tablets, like this one which I have, Asus Vivo over here, which is really small and light, and it runs on ARM. Just sign in with my picture password over there. So this is an ARM device. All of the ARM devices are running Windows RT. The differences between Windows 8 and Windows RT is that on Windows 8, you have full support for the existing Windows 7 applications. You have the desktop side over there. You can go over there and use all of those applications. On Windows RT, all of the applications are installed through the Windows Store, and you can't. And also, you get on the desktop side, you have Office built in, a special version of Office which is designed for the ARM tablets. But you can't install any applications on the desktop side on Windows RT ARM devices. However, if I have somewhere, I have it over here. This one is an old Samsung Series 7 device, which is originally Windows 7 device. And we just upgraded this to Windows 8 because we need to admit the experience of touch usage with Windows 7 is like having your finger to be the pointer and trying to hit all the icons over there. So this one is a Windows 8 device. It runs on Intel. And with that, I have full support also if I jump, you probably don't see, but I jump to the desktop side and I can install whatever applications I have that I used on Windows 7 already. So that's the difference on Windows RT and Windows 8. Another benefit on Windows RT is that those are more, in many cases, those are even more lighter, smaller, and cheaper. But also the processor is not so good on those in many cases. So the Windows RT side and the modern UI applications are built in a way, and you will learn more about that through these 3 days, are built in a way that you can actually have that good experience despite which devices you are using, whether it would be ARM device or whether it would be an Intel-based device. For Windows RT tablets, you don't have any viruses. Why? Because you can't install those. There is no way to install anything else than the stuff that comes from the store. And we have a huge, relatively long process for certifying all the apps that are going through that. I'm going to talk about that in the store talk. Probably that was the last session of this day. But you don't have that risk on that side. Another thing, when you think about tablets, a lot of people, how many of you have used or have an iPad? Around 2 1/3 or something. When I first tried the iPad, I thought that was a really cool device. That was a really cool device. It was small, it was light. I could browse the web with it. I could watch YouTube. I could do a lot of that kind of stuff. Obviously, the experience was not optimized for touch when I'm on the website, but that's okay. And I can even read my emails and send some emails from there. If I have some games over there and my kids would like to play with it, what do I do then? I give my tablet to them, and they have all my Facebook accounts, all my emails, Twitter, everything configured over there, and they have access to that. On Windows 8, we have profiles. So I can actually add different profiles to the system, and I can even define that this is a kid's profile. So I can control the timing, how much they can use the PC itself or the tablet itself, which applications or which websites they can access and so on. Much more confident for me to actually give that tablet to someone else. For example, in DigiExpo, in this machine, I have my corporate account over here. All my internal Microsoft emails are in this device, or the account for those emails are in this device. But in DigiExpo, I was handing this device to other people to test it out because we had another account over there, a test account that they could use. So that's one of those different makers on that side too. So let's jump to see about the Windows itself. So this is something that we already are familiar to see, right? This is Windows 7-ish. It looks like that. It's the desktop. I've been joking about that. I wonder what the designer guys are doing, what is their roadmap when they are building. If you look at the desktop, and you have various different versions of Windows. So when you have XP, you know that you have the box in the left lower corner over there. If you have a Vista, the corners are rounded, and if that's Windows 7, it's a circle. So there seems to be a trend. It goes smaller and smaller and smaller. And with Windows 8, they just took it off, right? So not exactly. Actually, it is over there. But the approach, because also the support for touch is there nowadays. If I take my mouse and put it over there, I can actually see the start menu. It's not menu anymore. It's a start screen, because that's the landing place when you launch your application or launch your OS. You start your Windows 8, which actually launches really, really fast. I have a old Lenovo laptop over here. It took like 45 seconds to boot up from scratch. Nowadays it takes like 10 seconds. So that was a huge, much more faster boot up time. Some people think that's really, really important. It is 12 seconds or 15 seconds. I think that's one sip of coffee. But anyway, so for some people that's really important. So Windows 8 brings that also to you. Even though you wouldn't use Windows 8 because of the touch features, you think I'm not probably going to use those applications at this time. But should I update? Yes, you should. It will make your PC run faster, and you will have all the access to the ecosystem that people are building on Windows 8 side too. So if I click this one or click the Windows button, I go to the start screen. So this is the place where actually everything happens. This is the place which is personal. This is my start screen. This is something that I control. I can choose whether I use mouse or I could use my finger. I have a device over here which supports both, so I can use my finger, or I can use my mouse to actually browse around over here, or my keyboard if I like. It's my choice. I'm not forced to use one approach when I'm using my computer. And funny thing is that I even combine this. I'm using my keyboard, I'm using my mouse, and I'm using my fingers at the same time. Not exactly the same time, but anyway. If I want to enter the settings, I always do that from the screen. If I want to pick up an application, I usually poke my screen, and that's really interesting when you go home and you don't have a touch-supported PC over there. You just find your fingerprints in the screen because you've been poking that all the time. So it goes to your bones. It really goes over there. Because you learn that the experience is much faster and much more comfortable to use. So what we see in this screen, we see tiles. We call this live tiles. The reason for calling those live tiles, how many of you have used Windows Phone? Almost everyone. That's pretty cool. So on Windows Phone, you've already seen the same metaphor. We have the light tiles over there. Everything that is important to me, I can actually put into my start screen over there too, and have that information and those elements over there that matters to me most, right? For example, I have some of my colleagues over here. I have my daughter, my wife, my son, my other daughter over there. My 2 years old and 4 years old are not having their own profile, so I'm not having them over there yet. Let's wait 1 or 2 years, and then they probably do. But I also have my emails, I have some pictures, and so on. when I'm using, let's say I would download your application, and you would be implementing the features over the lifestyle features over there. The application doesn't be running. It doesn't need to be running at that time when I get those updates over there. So you have a way to engage with the users, with your applications, even though they were not planning to use your application at that time. For example, I have a Helsingin Sanomat national magazine application in my phone. I tend to read the news in the morning, and then I don't read those during the day. Unless when I'm opening my phone, looking at my phone for checking that, do I have any emails or something like that, I see that tile every time. And I also see the updates every time when I'm just glancing at, just looking at over there. That makes me activate that application even though I was not planning to do so. So one key thing for Windows experience, Windows 8 experience, is the consistency of the applications and the consistency of the experience over the applications. So once I learn how to use Windows 8, there is a learning curve, yes, because there's something new. People tend to say, what do you need to change this whole thing? I'm used to the old thing. And yes, that's true. We're human. We don't like changes. When I bought my first car, which has an automatic gears, it was really, really difficult to admit that that was even better than the manual one. But once I got used to those, well, that's progress. But there is a learning curve. You need to know that, okay, if I'm using my mouse, certain things happens to the corners. For example, the charm bar, I can get it from corners. I can change applications from the other corner. I can use the semantic zoom with this corner over here and so on. Or if I'm using my fingers, I can do the same thing with pinching, swiping from the right-hand side and so on. If I swipe something from the top, I will get the application bar over there, which shows only one command at the moment. And as you can see, it's on the right-hand side, because that's a global command. If I choose some application over here, I will get additional commands on the other side. These are context-driven or context-bound commands, which means even though we're not teaching the users that, hey, everything that is on the right-hand side is global, everything that is on the left-hand side is related to context, they will learn because they are always over there. We have a design guideline that helps you to build your application to actually really, really productively build your application. You will see that tomorrow and during the night coding, because it's really productive to build the application, really easy way. And this is consistent to all of the application. Now I'm on the OS level. On the right-hand side, if I swipe from here, I get the charm slider up. So I have search, charm, share, devices, settings, and the start, which is the same as the Windows key in my keyboard. If I want to see the settings for Windows, I choose settings from this side. But if I would like to see the settings for, let's say, MTV3, I would swipe from the exactly same place. So the settings, the users will find the settings always from the same place, no matter which application they are using. If I want to search something on the OS level, I search from the same place. If I type search, let's type fish over here. I didn't find any app that matches fish. I find some files that matches fish. But interesting thing is also I can actually search, put that search directly to the applications, to other applications that we have. So I can actually choose another application. Let's say I would use Internet Explorer that jumps to Bing and makes it search for fish. Or I could like to try maps. Let's see what happens if I click maps for fish. So there is a town in Namibia that matches fish. But from my perspective, when I was searching something, my key task is to search something based on the keyword. And I can use all these applications that are supporting search to actually do some search. If you build your application in a good way, that is advertising your applications all the time when the users are using search, because the more I use certain applications for search, the higher it goes on the stack over here. So that is something that is totally free advertisement for your application. So that's one thing that you should definitely concentrate when you think about your applications. Can users search something from there? If yes, then you need to definitely make sure that you pay attention on the search functionalities and implement those to the right place, which is on the right-hand side in the search charm. So, thinking about sharing, we can't share anything from the start screen, but if I choose one application, I could share something from that side. The idea for sharing is that this combines different applications. This combines your application that its best at statement would be that my application provides the best recipes for consumers. And the other application is my application is the best tool for sharing or tweeting stuff to the network, or tweeting something to our internal network. So if I have installed that application on my machine, I could share through that your application, even though I was using some others applications to actually initialize that share. So let's see what that means. So I jump to Valios application, which is a really cool application that is built for browsing all the different recipes that Valio is providing. On this side, as I did the pinch, using the semantic zoom to allow me to step back from the content to actually browse the content on the start screen, the same thing goes within the applications. But it wouldn't make any sense in this case to actually just zoom out and see those tiny little squares of the recipes. Instead, if I do the same thing, I will see all the different categories, which makes sense for the user. To implement this is one additional view that you implement to your application, and add 4 lines of code, which actually implements the semantic zoom. And then you just define the other view that you're using. The other thing is also, if I want to use my application on the other side, and snap it on the left or right hand side, it is possible actually to have 2 active applications running at the same time. Windows 8 is the only platform that you can run on tablet, having 2 applications running at the same time. Let's say I will be watching news on this side and reading some emails on that side. So I could have some other applications running on there at the same time. Right side was for the charms. If I swipe from left side, I can actually change the applications that I'm using at the same time. But let's go back to the share. So now that I find something interesting, let's say some favorites, chocolate fondue. Sounds good. Swiping from the right opens me the charm. I can choose share. There we go. So I can choose share, and over there I can see all the applications that are supporting the share as a target. So this Valios application is working as a share source, which tells to the OS, if the user chooses to click share, this is the content that will be shared right now. It could be video, it could be images, it could be text, it could be links. And through the contracts that the OS is managing, you can actually take that content or share that content from your application to another application. This application says that I'm sharing pictures and a link and some description, and using some built-in contracts. There could be also customized contracts if you need those for between two different applications. But then both of those applications needs to know that custom contract. But using the built-in ones, it's really easy to share content from one application to another. And from here, I could choose JSON and say, want to have this. There we go. Now Drazen got my tip that I want to eat some chocolate fondue. Hopefully he will fix something for tomorrow for me about that. That was that easy to actually do the sharing from one application to another. So this application doesn't need to concentrate on implementing Facebook APIs or Twitter APIs because it's not the core thing. It's not the thing that is defining the best at statement. This application is something that is focusing on the recipes, and therefore it concentrates on that and provides the best experience for that side. When on the other hand, the other applications are concentrating on sharing or tweeting or showing different tweets, so I can use those applications. So implementing the share, that's probably like 10 lines of code. And then the user chooses which application will be the target for the share for your application. So they are fulfilling each other. It makes them better when they work together. I will show you one application. This is an application that shows different traffic signs in Finland. This application started from the idea, also if we do the semantic zoom thing, we get a different view. Now we see how much different kind of, different type of the signs we have. If we go over to the category, we can see all of those over here. We can even browse these one by one, if that would be the case that we would like to do. This started from the idea that my kids said to me, hey Dad, there's a lot of traffic signs. How could we learn about traffic signs in a way that see that what different sign means? So I figured out, hey, I'm going to do the same approach that we're doing tomorrow in the workshop. I built my application exactly the same way. This was a mock-up in the beginning. The biggest time was actually to get the assets to my machine. And I have all the share. I can go over here and share. Let's do it. Empty share, so I find everything. And this image that I have over here on the background, which is not visible so well on the screen, was taken on the highway to Turku with my mobile phone. Don't tell anyone that I took an image. A picture while I was driving. I was thinking about, hey, I'm missing a background image from my application. I took an image. It actually went right into the SkyDrive, and through SkyDrive, I got that right to my machine, so I just added that over there. To build this whole application took me 4 hours. Well, to be honest, 5 hours, because I needed to submit that too. But, like, 5 hours, the whole application. And this is built exactly the same approach that we're building tomorrow, the application that we're using within the workshop itself. One last thing that I want to show with the contracts and how the application are working is the way how I can actually pick something up from the different, let's take that one away, create a new email. So let's say that I would like to tell that I would like to send an email to someone which has some images from my image. Okay, I need my image. I add an attachment over there. There's a lot of images over there, but I think the even easier way is to actually attach the camera itself, which is not connected over there. So I forgot to take my camera. Okay, let's not use that one. Let's go to Bing. Let's do a search to Bing. So now we're in the internet. I'm choosing that directly from there. So now it's included in my email. I'm choosing another one, attachment, I'm taking another application, which let's say it would be photos. So this application could be your application. Your application can actually open up the access to other applications through the choice of the user to actually choose something. Let's say I would like to grab something like from the SkyDrive, let's take that one. So now instead of going to SkyDrive and choosing Save As, I'm choosing the application and the image right away from there, and now I'm good to go to send the email forward. This could be, let's say that you would be from some company that is providing some documentation for their customers. This could be the way how I get that documentation, that document to my application really, really easily. So you don't even know all the scenarios that people could have, because you only know that there are some interfaces that you can provide to another applications, and you can use their applications interfaces for the full experience to actually have and leverage all of those. So to bring all this together, Windows 8, what we did on that side, we did a lot of reimagination. We did that on store side. I'm going to talk more about that, business opportunities more in details. We also brought a new way for device manufacturers to actually have that, the new approach on that side, and also the new kind of experience that you get with no compromise. You are the one who chooses which device you want to use. You're not forced to use one device because you want to have a tablet, or another device because you want to do something else. You have the freedom to choose which device you want to have and still have the same great experience in all of those devices. I'm going to talk more about the application model in the next sessions, so not going in depth to that. I'm not sure where we're supposed to have a break between these two presentations. Anyone know? Because Drazen is not over here, and I'm just the monkey who is speaking. Okay. Any questions? During Jacqueline is running in the background that nobody noticed and checking out the time schedule. I'm so well prepared with my 5 kids and no sleep, which is the theme of this weekend. Yes? Yes. The question was, is there a copy-paste still? Yes, it's a Windows. So you can do a copy and pasting, but it depends on how the application has been built. So the application can be built in a way that you can't choose text, or it could be built in a way that you can. And then you could copy from there. So it's up to the developers to actually choose that. In some cases, you could want to protect something on that side, but it is possible. But once again, it's the user who makes that, the choice to copy and paste. So the application themselves can't do that, obviously. And that's because of the security model that we have on Windows 8. Each of the applications are running in the isolated sandbox, so they can't access the other application without the contract itself. For Windows RT, it's Windows RT devices you can use that in enterprise environment, but you can't, for example, join domain with it. You can't have that kind of functionalities on that side. But there is a Windows Intune, which is the model that you can actually manage the applications that are running on the Windows RT devices. So on Windows RT devices, that's the 2 ways, or there's actually 3 ways to actually install something over there. If you're a developer, you can sideload that over there. You need to have a developer license. or if you're using Windows Store, which makes sense, obviously, and the third one is using Windows Intune. So those are the three ways to actually do that. But Windows RT in many scenarios is not the best choice for companies, because in many cases you also need to have the desktop applications running on that side too, which are something else than Office, which is included. And that's, by the way, is included by default, so that's included right away over there on Windows RT devices. Did that answer your question? Likely?
So you mentioned 3 ways how to use Windows: touch, mouse, and keyboard. How about the voice recognition?
The question was about voice recognition. To be honest, I'm not sure. I need to check that out, and I will definitely. This is a great question for the WhatsApp hackathon thing, because we don't know everything, even though we would like to do that. So we have a big support network to actually. But I will check that out definitely, because I have like fake memory that I saw something related to that, but I need to check that out. Any other questions? So Jacqueline, what was the time scale? No break. Some coffee and then we're good to go. No breaks. So the next session is, I think it's an hour and a half. There is a lot of stuff to cover. Actually, there would be so much stuff to go through that. Let's see if it works in the correct way. Yes, it does. There's so much topics to go through that we won't be able to do that in 1.5 hours. I also tried to bring something for the Windows Phone 8 in this presentation. Not going through the whole platform, not going all the features. There's like NFCs, there's wallet, there's a lot of different features that I'm not going to talk in this presentation. And that's because we actually need whole day or whole 2 days to go that through. We are going to arrange that kind of seminars too, which focus on Windows Phone 8, because this WhatsApp 3 days is mainly concentrating on Windows 8 and its development, but the path from Windows 8 to Windows Phone 8, as they are having a shared core, which doesn't mean that they are exactly the same in all ways, but it sure helps a lot when you're building applications. What comes to Windows 7 side, I'm going to talk slightly about the changes from Windows Phone 7 to Windows Phone 8 in the beginning, and the first part of this presentation is actually concentrating on the phone. We will have a separate presentation about Windows Azure during this day, so probably touch that really fast, but not going in depth to that topic. All right, so talking about the overview, the first thing that I want to emphasize is XAML. There is different ways to build the applications on Windows 8 and on Windows Phone 8 and also on Windows Phone 7.x. But the one that is same for all, if you choose to take that path, is XAML. So what XAML is it is extensible application markup language. So that is a declarative markup language that actually defines your UI and all the animations and that kind of stuff on that side. This is something that you need to do on Windows Phone and on Windows 8. They are separate things. Even though you could use a lot of shared code on both sides if you're using C#, you still need to implement the UI separately. Why? Because we don't want to have that experience that you will be having some application in your phone, and if you take your tablet, that will be going to that tablet right away, and it would just scale out in that tablet, and the experience would not be good. We are doing the breakpoint differently than the competitors. We want to bake the breakpoint into that position when the mobile device, the usage scenarios and all are different than on tablets and PCs and so on. But the tablets and PCs are more close to each other. You want to use your tablet in your work, but you want to work with that tablet too. When you attach that to a docking station, that's your PC. That's your working station that you use. So that's the reason that the breakpoint for that one is over there. And the way how you write apps for Windows Phone is XAML. It is aligned with Windows 8, as I said. It's not exactly the same. There are different controls. There could be different namespaces, but still it's pretty much the same in a way that with the skill set that you have, if you have built application with Silverlight or WPF, and you know XAML, you know the principles on that side, you know how to build phone application and you know how to build Windows 8 application. There are some architectural differences also if you compare to WPF and Windows 8, but we're looking into those later on. On phone side, something that when we're thinking about how you build the applications, for example, using the XAML, using C# and VB. You can also build that using C++. So you can use C++ libraries if you have some direct 3D stuff that you need to invoke. You could even embed something from the direct 3D side into your games and host that within your... Okay, I need to share my screen again, which is always fun. Not that one. This one. Sharing my screen. Funny thing in screen sharing is that everybody will see everything that I show. I think it's a positive thing, but yes. Yes. And now I'm losing my voice. Talk about the breaks. All right. So on Windows Phone 8 side, you have several different ways to actually build the applications. You can reuse the code that you have. If you're building games, you could even go really hardcore C++ approach on that side. You can also build applications using PhoneGap or something like that. So you could have your native application hosting your local pages. And with some extra work, you could even get the experience pretty close to a native one. But it's much more productive to actually build the native ones. You will learn that during tomorrow, not focusing on Windows Phone, but on focusing on Windows 8. You will see that. Underneath that, we have all the Windows Phone 8 APIs, and therefore it's really easy to actually access that. So all the GPS, location, content, and that kind of stuff that you are already familiar on Windows Phone 7.x side is there. Also, we get like NFC support, we get the wallet support, so you can actually have this kind of functionalities in your applications. If you think about, yes, we're going to build an application which is going to go to a Windows Phone. Should it be Windows Phone 7.x or should it be Windows Phone 8? There's a couple of things to consider on that side. the first thing, do you need features that are especially on Windows Phone 8, like NFC? If you're not, rethink. Even though it's a new thing, the Windows Phone 8, there's a lot of users on Windows Phone 7. Think about the scale on that side. Should you jump right into the Windows Phone 8? The other thing, if you have something that you need to really highly optimize, the performance on Windows Phone 8 is much, much better for the users. So if your application is something that is consuming a lot of the calculation power and you're having really complex XAML approaches or implementations, you could end up in a situation that you see that, okay, it works really, really good on Windows Phone 8, but it's really heavy for Windows Phone 7. But still, it's a really powerful platform on Windows Phone 7.x2. So think about that first. Don't just run to the Windows Phone 8 right away if that's not needed. Think about your business. Think about the people that you are trying to reach on that side. So let's talk about something about the building the application itself. What I thought that I would cover for Windows Phone 8 over here is talking about the project infrastructure and the design slightly, not much, but slightly, because I want to also save some time for the Windows 8 stuff on that side. Talking about templates, locations, localization, multiple resolutions. So on Windows Phone 8 side, we have 3 different resolutions that the users could use. But for you, there's really good couple of thumb rules that if you follow those, it's really easy to actually implement the application that scales out to that scales up or scales down to the applications that you're using or the users are using. Also talking about building blocks like panorama, pivot, and so on. And let's jump into the first topic for that one. So on project templates, we did a lot of different kind of tweakings on the project templates. For example, the localization is built in over there. The model for that one is built over there. There is ways to build the direct 3D applications over there. There's a way actually to build the XNA applications over there. You can build also the HTML apps. So there is a template. If you want to take that path, you can take that path to this example, how to build those. So templates are a really powerful way to get started, but templates are a really powerful way also to get started when you're building your mock-up for the customer or actually the whole real application. I was using a template when I built the traffic sign application. Building the application itself was really, really quick, because I had everything over there. Everything was aligned in the right place. I had all the elements over there. I just need to fill the data and do some tweaking with the UI, with the graphics, which means that one image to the background. So on the globalization side, on the localization side, when we are thinking about the global reach and thinking about how to actually get the customers to use your application in as various countries as possible, you need to think about how to localize your application. And when should you start to think about localization? Anyone? Last 2 weeks, in the middle, after the first implementation is done and you see this is great, maybe we should push this to other countries. Before, definitely. It's really easy to have localized strings if you're using the resource files that I will show you in a minute. The resource files in your applications right from the first second. If you go back to your project and start replacing every single text block that you have over there after the fact, it's going to be really pain, and you probably forget something from there and so on. So it's much, much easier to do that on that side. So whenever you start building your application, if you're not 110% sure that this will be only be distributed with one language and never with any other, then you could leave that away. But I would start always with that approach that it is localized, even though you will be just localizing one language over there. The other one is what we brought also in Windows Phone 8 is flow direction controls for the UI mirroring. So what that means also that brings you to the left to right, right to left ways. Because in some cultures, your character sets requires that they read that from the, I would say, wrong direction, but that would be probably impolite to say, so from the other direction. And also you could have text blocks that are containing both of those, so which has from right to left and left to right. So we're also supporting the bidirectly approach on that side. And some of you, if you're built already your application on Windows Phone, and you take a screen dump from your application, and you think you aligned everything nicely over there, but still, for some reason, it doesn't look exactly the same as the first-party applications. That the reason for that one is that we had totally separate render engine for the third-party applications earlier. In Windows Phone 8, we do have one which is it uses the direct write or dwrite, which actually makes sure that you get the same experience on that side. There could be some tweaking things, and because of that also we have a new property called character spacing. So you can actually tweak your characters in your blocks to actually make sure that everything aligns exactly as you would like to have those. But we don't only have different countries and localization places that you need to think about. You also need to think about multiple resolution. So when you build your application, you build one application and then you're good to go, but what about the other resolutions? How would that work? How can you make sure that the experience is good on all of the different WVGA or XXGA devices? Because there's differences with it. So what we do, we actually do automatic scaling. So everything that you build, there is a way for building the layout on the logical side and on the physical side. Everything that you do, you control the logical side. The device itself will do the physical side. So if you build something, an application which would be like 480 by 800, and then that will be displayed in the XGA device, it will be scaled with 1.6 times. So what you need to think about over here is that when you build your application, I'm not sure if you can see this one, but you actually define the whole UI as you will be building that to WVGA. But your graphics should be built in a way that it would be for the WXGA. And the reason for that one is that when we scale up the content that you have in your screen, when we scale out that to a different resolution, if your graphics are built for the lower resolution, the experience on the higher is not so good. But we also do the scaling down. So therefore, if you have the bigger resolution on that side, it's really, really easy to just use those images on that side. But what that means also, and I will show you in a second about the images itself, because in that case also you end up to get a lot of big images. So you need to know ways how to optimize that information, that content. If you're downloading something from the web, you want to make sure that the images are not. If you have like 4 megs image on your phone, you probably want to do some encoding on that side or transforming for that one, so it wouldn't consume so much memory on the device. But I will show you a demo about that in a second. But as we see over here, we have now a view or you know, our UI built with the 400 logical width over there, and what we have on the how that will be shown in the WXGA. Love these acronyms. That will be 640, but you still build that exactly the same way, and so on. But what about really thin areas? So what we do for those, we actually do a round up for those. So if it's really short, small area or small value, we do a round up for that one. So instead of having like it would be too logical, on a physical. It's 3 because it's 1.6 would be going to 1. Where would it go? Well, anyway, it would go somewhere over there, and we round those up so in a way that it matches over there. For that, there could be something that works slightly different between different devices, so you just need to be aware of this. And for the text itself, you don't need to do anything, because what we do, we render the text with the highest resolution, and then we scale that down. So you can be really confident on using that side. You don't need to think about that. You always think about the logical resolution and the layout that you're building. As a rule, all the layouts are done in WVGA, and all the images are used in higher resolution using the WXGA format. So that makes sure that the experience is as good as possible on that side. All right, let's jump into Visual Studio. So what I'm going to start with Visual Studio, the one benefit of Visual Studio is whether you are building Windows Phone application, whether you're building Windows 8 application, whether you're building Windows Azure application, you have the same tools, the familiar and good tools for actually doing that. You can do the debugging over different projects and so on, so it's really compelling and good way to actually do that. And the tools by default for Windows Phone and Windows 8 are free. Those would be the express versions for those. But the tools that you probably use in companies and in teams, because you need to have source control, and you need to have the unit testing and that kind of features on that side, would require the better SKUs or better versions for the Windows Visual Studio and Express and Blend. But to get started with the developing is really easy, and it doesn't cost anything on that side. So what we see over here, we have different phone templates. We can build those direct 3D apps. We can build those HTML apps. We even have a nice logo over there. We can start from scratch, having nothing on the template, just one page, or using a data-bound application as I'm using over here. And just clicking that one, I get to do one choice. Whether I would like to build the existing applications or for targeting for the 7.x platform, or would I like to target for a Windows Phone 8 platform. So I can actually use the same tools to manage the existing application that I have. Once it's booting up from there, what I want to show you first is we have a lot of comments over here. So we have done a lot of work on actually explaining how everything is working in the new templates. One thing to note, and I will copy that, is that there is an example how to do data binding for the localized resources, which means by default when you launch a new template, it already has what you need for the localizations to get started with it. So I'm just copying that, and all I would need to do in this case when I want to have that application title for this one, would be that I go into that title over there and replace this with the code that I just wrote. Didn't go like in the movies. Let's try that again. Copying that string like that. Really simple thing. Not going in depth with it. Anyway. So what we now have is a Skype, which is annoying me. So what we now have over here is we have a text block that has a text property over there. And the text property is defining the header for our application, or the title for our application. In this model that we have the binding, we're actually binding to a localized resource application title. So where do we get the localized strings? We go to the app XAML document, or the XAML file. And over here we can find that we have everything that is defined on app.xaml, either on Windows 8 or Windows Phone 8. App XAML is the global place. If you define some public properties over there, they are visible to all of the whole application. So with the visibility rules for the variables itself, that's the global definitions. So we're just defining that local strings for that one, but the local strings over here is actually using something else. And what that is using is this. So it is implementing implementing this local strings class, which is kind of like walkthrough in a way, or pipeline just to the content itself. And what this does, it has one public property that actually returns the resource string based on what we are searching over here. For example, over here dot application title. And the resource strings will be found from this place over here, where we can see that there's something already added over there, and we can add more as we will. A good best practice is build your application. If you know that you have an application that has many different languages, think about building your application with the language that has the longest strings, or the words are the longest. When you start to build your application, it's much easier to build that with one language, or try to tweak with the others and changing those all the time, because you can copy the whole resource file and change that to another language, and then do the translations for the whole set of text or strings that you have over there. Over here we can also control the resource flow direction and resource languages. So these are the fallback information that it will fall back to these settings if something else is not matching. Let's say you will be having a character set that is not matching for your language. Then if it doesn't have the Unicode is not matching for the character set that you have, then you would be actually falling back to that one which you have over on this side. Really easy way to actually have the localized approach for your application, because it's built in the templates on Windows Phone 8 projects. Another thing that I want to show also, so let's see that I have this view over here. This is the UI for the application itself, or this first page. Let's jump to that page. And what we have over here, I'm just trying to make that smaller, so we would see something over here fits all like that. So I'm just taking this long list selector. I will talk more about long list selector in a minute, but long list selector is something that we replace. You have some problems with it again? What? Yeah, sure. Probably my network, because I'm dropping out all the time from this one. There we go. So we replaced list box with the long list selector for several reasons. I will talk more about that in a second. You still will find that list box from the APIs, but it's not visible over here. That's on purpose. So we believe on this side so much. But I will just delete this one and create this text block. Let's give a text for that one and say hello world. Wow zap, like that. And now we're good to go. We could just package this up and submit to the Windows Phone store, or not, because as you can see, if we look at the screen that we have over here, let's look at that. Let's zoom in slightly. You can see that it's not aligned with the whole the experience over there. But to see this even better, what we have included to all of the templates, we can actually, I have a commented image source alignment grid over here, so I can actually Control K, Control U, trying to at least, okay, you uncomment that one. What I get over here, I get a grid that shows right for me that hey, it's not aligned. So the whole UI, the principles for the UI, for the modern UI on Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8 is based on the grids. Even though your elements wouldn't be boxes, it could be round buttons or something like that, but still they should be aligned with the grid. So let's just really quickly jump into the main page, what we have over here. I'm just jumping to the blend, saving that one, showing the other side that what we have on the designer tool, or this is more designish approach for the same project. It's not like if I'm not a designer, I can't use blend. If I'm a coder, I still can use blend, and you better should also, because it's a really powerful tool to do a lot of stuff. So what I want to show really quickly on this side is that we have also built-in styles. So choosing that text block that I had, going to edit styles, apply styles. Instead of knowing all of the different margins, like 12 pixels from the left-hand side needs to be margin for the Windows Phone, and so on. We have all this explained in the design guidelines, and you should read those, or at least your designer should read those, because that's really important to get consistent and good experience for the applications. But to remember every single thing, and when you actually get started and try to ramp up with your ideas and your applications, these built-in styles are really come in handy. So I can choose the phone text normal style, and what you see now, it aligns automatically to the right position, because that's something that the style defines automatically on that side. So now that we have this image over here, and all of the assets and image that we have are actually put to the asset folder that we in the project by default. All of the different tiles that we have in the template are also over here. Let's try to zoom in just slightly so you see more. And also we have that alignment green PNG over there. Obviously, when you are actually publishing your application, you want to get rid of all of the graphics that are taking space from your applications if you're not using that, so you would delete that from that side. But something that you probably noticed if you build Windows Phone applications earlier is that we don't have a splash screen image over there. It's not that you couldn't do that. It's still there. But by default, when you're running application on Windows Phone 8, it runs so much faster than the application that earlier took like around 1 second to load could now load in half the time. So for users with the usability test that we made, for users it's actually disturbing to have like splash screen that you couldn't even see what happens, because it comes over there and it goes away. Or the marketing guys could, if you really want to have your logo over there and spend that 1.5 seconds over there, you can build the landing canvas to your application to actually get that same experience, if you will. like that. All right. One more thing that I want to show on this side is I'm opening up another application that I have, which is already built. And in this application, Ruutu. Share my screen. Wonder of the technology. I wonder if I need to change my network or something. Can you see that now? No? We couldn't start your video. My video. Alright. Always fun to play with these tools. Alright. So what I have over here, I have a page or an application which has actually a background image. That background image comes from the backend system, and its size is around 2 megs. I just run this application. What you can see over there, I'm running this in emulator for WVGA for 512 megs. You can change different emulator profiles if you want to test, and you should test your applications against those. So that's something that you should definitely look into. And I have that background image that is 2 megs, and I also have different images over here, and some of the jump lists and so on. I will talk about more about this in a second. But what we have over here is the background image that consumes some amount of the memory in the system. So it's hard to guess. It would be nice to say how much space it consumes, but I will show the whole application is using at the moment 77 megs, and the background image for us is 2 megs. But what actually happens at the moment is that we download the whole application, the image into the memory, render it over there, and scale it down, so that consumes a lot of memory. Instead of doing that, let's jump out of here. And something that you notice also, when I actually jump out of the application, the debugger didn't stop. So you can actually, in Windows Phone 8, you can actually continue to do the debugging even though the application is ended, so you can debug the resume states and so on for the application life management side. Stopping that, and what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to jump into Surgeon 168, I think, line. And one thing that has been WPF and Silverlight, that's also on phone, is the decode pixel. So this is something that I just want to show as a hint. Just dropping that over there into the bitmap as an attribute. Decode pixel width means that whatever the original the resolution of the image is, it will have or retain the aspect rate, but it will scale that down. It will do the decoding for that one. That's all I need to do for images. Make sure that that's something that you do if you're not using that same image in a way that you need to have it in the bigger scale. Oh, that's nice. Device screen is unlocked. Really, really classy. Let's try it again. So if you have something that you will zoom in or zoom out for the images, then you can't do this because it would be in the low res image. But anyway, so how much we had about the consumption of the memory earlier? It was 78. So what do you think it's now? It was 2 megs image. 29 megs. So it dropped to half, even less than half, for how much memory it consumes. So that's really important when if you don't manage the backend, if you're downloading images from backend, remember this. That's built in over there, and it's really handy to actually to know on that side. All right. Seems that we're still sharing. Going on this side. Jumping back over there. So, some control improvement. So this image is taken from a colleague of mine, which is like, how many of you have built Windows Phone application and tried to use Progress Bar? The experience is not so good with it built in control. It wasn't so highly optimized in a way, and the experience in many cases, people tended to use different solutions. They implemented that on their own. We know that sucked. So, on the control improvements, so Progress Bar animates off thread nowadays, so it actually works. It works really, really good, really well on Windows Phone 8 now. When Windows Phone, we have had a lot of time between Windows 7 and Windows Phone 8, so that allowed us to really concentrate on some of the smaller areas that needs to have some optimization. Which wasn't done in that level in the Windows Phone 7. Another thing is the panorama pivot and long list selector are all in read-only memory, which means that they are not anymore deployed within your own assembly. You're not using a separate assembly over there. They are built into the system, and they are highly optimized, which means also that it reduced the panorama memory usage a lot. So if you see the other color, I'm colorblind, so I have no clue what colors those are. But the system memory for the more mangoish, something like that, is much higher than on a Windows Phone 8 side. So there is a huge improvement on the memory usage, on the system memory, and also on the Windows. On the video memory. Also, at the same time, some of you may have noticed that when you are opening up the application, if you start right away when it boots up the application, start to using the panorama and try to flick it, it jams. It doesn't work right away. It takes like a half a second or something, but if you're really quick, you could see that in some cases, if the panorama is containing a lot of content, and it's really heavy. So because we moved all of these to the ROM, it also improves the first touch experience on that side. For the long list selector, what we get jump list. You don't need to use any more toolkit things. It's built in over there. To actually have a jump list, you need to have a implemented iList interface type of list that is a group list, and within that is another list which is the items. So you have an iList within an iList, and with that model you actually get to modify and customize the jump list experience as you will with the groups. Another thing what we have, which we built in within the long list selector, is a grid view. So that's one attribute that you define, and then you get the grid view. Earlier, to actually build this kind of experience would actually require you to use wrap panel, go to the template, replace the stack panel to wrap panel, tweak a lot on that side, think about how that will be aligning in different places and so on. So this helps a lot, and it's really fast also to use. And sticky headers. So probably know that if you have enough application in your Windows Phone, you have the blue boxes that are defining the header for your for the jump list or in the list. But sticky headers, what it does, it actually sticks on top of the even though you scroll through. If you're in letter P and you go through and through, you still get the letter P over there. So it's really fast way to access from the lists to jump list. And on the long list selector, I already talked about this, but it's highly optimized in a way that it really helps to on those areas. If you have something like 10,000, 20,000 items in your list, to avoid the jam over there, and there is an item realized element or event which actually tells you how far away the item that you're looking at is from the end of the screen, which means that you could actually respond to that need that, hey, the user is going closer and closer to the end of the batch that I already downloaded. I need to download the next one. So it's really easy to build that side too. Talking about the maps, on Windows Phone 8 we're using Nokia's maps. It's really fast, really fluent experience on that side. Supports also the maps of offline maps, so you can download map over there, and it is vector based, which means that if you zoom in, everything is nice and crispy, so you don't have any challenges on that side either. And one interesting thing on the offline maps is that it is shared over the different applications. So if one application downloads the map of Spain and the other application needs to have that same thing, it's already there. You don't need to download that again. So that's a pretty cool thing on the system level map solution. On the web browser we have IE10, which gives the same support for the full support for the HTML5 and CSS styles and all the gestures that you have on that side. We don't have two different browsers in the phone. Windows Phone 7.x applications are running in the compatibility mode for IE9 on that side. One last thing on the controls or the new things that I'm going to go through on Windows Phone side is pitch and stretch. So there's a way to actually manage much easier than today. Actually, also this gestures. So if you want to do some zooming within your application that is fully customized for some special scenario, you could also do that. Viewport control is a more primitive way than the scroll viewer to actually manage a lot of content that you could dynamically update during the usage of that. You have all the scroll bars and so on over there. If you try to update something like Twitter feeds on the top of the list, it would, let's say, it could be complicated to manage that in a way that it's easy to use when you update something in the middle. So viewport is for that, and some of you probably have used Toolkit. So Toolkit side is rebranded and moved to phone.codeplex.com because it's all the styles and all the templates are branded for Windows Phone 8 on that side, and has a new kind of additional controls that you could leverage on that side. So therefore it is moved to a different place. Earlier I think it was at silverlight.codeplex.com, but now it's over there. It's easy to find with that one. So what about the Windows Phone 7 side? We're doing a massive effort to actually make sure that the compatibility works on if you have application or if a user that are both an application for Windows Phone 7 and now you bought Windows Phone 8 application, that you could get the same applications on the new platform too. There are some caveats on that side because some of the binaries are working in a different way on Windows Phone 8 than on Windows Phone 7. So you should definitely check your project through and see that everything looks as you were intended to do that. So just to make sure that, because there are some differences on how it works, just do check that out. Light Up is a way to actually have your Windows Phone 7 applications using some of the Windows Phone 8 features when running on Windows Phone 8. So you could attach more functionalities on that side, even though you have Windows Phone 7 application code base on that side. For code sharing, as talked earlier, code sharing is really good way. If you're using the C# on that side, you can use all the assets that you have, and also you can reference to existing assemblies which is built with C++, for example, if you have some math category functionalities or stuff like that you would like to leverage in your applications. So that's really quick overview about some of the stuff that we have on Windows Phone 8 coming up. The next thing that I want to talk is on kind of a technical overview, high overview on Windows Phone on Windows 8, and talking about that approach, since we have a lot of time tomorrow to look into that, how different functionalities and features are implemented. I won't go so deeply over here. This is pretty much the same content that I delivered earlier also when we are talking about the platform itself, because that hasn't changed. So if you have seen some of this, it's a good place to reinforce the information, and if you haven't, pay attention, don't fall and slip. Hopefully not. This one we saw. We talked about this already in my first presentation, talking about reimagining the whole thing, talking about the fast and fluid approach, touch, mouse, and keyboard approaches. If you're using pen, actually you can use that too. And this is something that this is the starting point. As a developer, we need to think how we are building our application that it will blend smoothly to that environment. You could build totally different experience. You could build an application that has nothing in common with Windows 8 UI. Nothing. Probably your ratings would go really down. I'm definitely 150% sure we wouldn't promote that in any place, and probably people would hate that. Why? That's been the problem with the users, that when they download a new application from some store, they need to learn how to use this new application. Remember, the search is in the same place, the settings are in the same place, there are certain gestures that we can always do. Certain functionalities or commands are always found in the same places. It is a consistent experience for the users, even though they never tried your application before. So keep that in mind. That's really important to remember when you think about building your own applications. Already talked about this. I actually have the same couple of same slides over here. But when we think about the platform itself, couple of things that I want to emphasize. Fast and fluent user experience. When you build your application, think about how you build your application that it would be responsive. What I mean by this, if you have a long list that you download from the back end when the user are starting the application, think about how you would make sure that the experience is fast and fluent, even though you're downloading a lot of stuff in the background. If you wait and wait and wait and wait, and you have the circle, even though it needs to be on up to date, the content, you could say to the users, hey, you're watching old content at the moment. We're downloading the new one to the system. Once we're done, we'll let you know. So if they are reading news, they see the yesterday's news over there, because the whole really great experience, all the data that makes the great experience come alive is still downloading. Make sure that you focus on the experience from the first second. Immersive and full screen. Applications are focusing on the content and the functionality that application is meant to. if you have a functionality on the screen that the user doesn't use right now, they don't need that all the time over there. Let's say it would be a Twitter client. Then you probably have the tweet, send the tweet button in on the canvas. But if you would have something like people and you would like to add a person or add an attachment to your email, that would go to the application bar. Think about this. Think about less is more. The more you get out from the canvas and you can simplify your user experience, the more clear is the message and the functionalities that you want to deliver to your users. Also, we talk about the touch-first approach. Whenever you build your application, think about the touch user. Think about the tablet user. Test your application with a tablet. Test it. Use different, for example, we have in the tools, we have a way to actually test different kind of resolutions. Test those too. But test the application as a touch device user. Because if that works smoothly and good and well, if it's easy to use with your finger, it's easy to use with your mouse and keyboard. So make sure that you take that approach. All the applications are or can be attached to each other, so you have a web of application working together. But also, even though they are attaching or connected to each other through contracts, they could also be connected to another machines. For example, if I'm changing some settings in my Windows 8 profile, those settings will reflect to all of my machines that have the same profile. I don't have two screens attached, so I can't show that over here, but we can try to see that, for example, tomorrow. And the last thing, that you have the same experience on all devices. It's important to remember that you have huge scale on that side. So we did some platform investments. The key investments that we did was on the new runtime, WinRT. But this is like runtime, not talking about the version itself. New Windows 8, the experience, the user experience that we have, also the execution model, and the store. I have a totally another session about the store in the end of the day, so I'm concentrating on that later on. But if we talk about the platform itself, it all starts from the core, from the Windows core in the bottom. On top of that, we have the desktop apps. So everything that you have done on with .NET, C#, VB, C++, or application HTML using JavaScript within the browser, Silverlight, that's still there. On Windows 8, that's still there. You have the desktop side, which has the compatibility on that side. On the WinRT API side, what we had the RT's APIs in a way that we can build with different or we have different options to choose which approach on the development we want to use. If I'm a web developer, I know HTML5 and JavaScript really, really well. That's probably the way how I would like to build the native applications for Windows 8. I still have the exactly same APIs to the system. We have a technical projections, which means that we can actually expose all the native APIs to the users using the projection model, and therefore it looks like for the JavaScript coders, the native APIs looks like a JavaScript. For the C++, it looks like a C++ and so on. So it's really, really handy way to actually do that. And obviously the XAML and C# is over there too. So interesting to see is also on the XAML side, we also have C and C++. How many C++ developers there are in the room. Okay? Is it easy to build the UIs for C++ applications? Like drag and drop and so that kind of stuff? No? Apparently not. So that's been one of the challenges on that side. Even though a talent C++ coder in the project team can do amazing stuff with it. If you know what you're doing, everything is easy if you know what you do, right? If you know it, it's easy. But on the UI side, there's a lot of stuff that it has been like too much work that it could be. And therefore, the Windows Store apps can be built with HTML5 or XAML using either Windows, the .NET languages C# and VB, or C or C++. So if you have some functionalities or algorithm made with C++, you can also build the whole application on that side. I still use XAML's features for that one. So doing a really quick demo about that. Let's go over here and create a new project. Let's create a Windows Store application. Do a blank one. This is really, really simple. Oh, I did it wrong. I'm so used to use the C#, so I didn't want to go there. Let's go to C++ and create an application for that one. Oh, application. It's going to be so awesome that I sell this for 10 euros for a million people. But anyway, so what we have over here is that we're going to build, we're going to go to the main page side. Let's see. Go in. Let's share that one again. So what I just want to show you is really quickly that, like, when we're building, this is the C++. Not going very deeply because I'm running out of time, but this is a C++ application, but we still have the XAML files over there to actually represent the UI itself. So if I click over here and type like button, which is not typed like that, typing button, there we go. And then I would like to give some content for the button, like press me. There we go. And our button is over there. I could do some tweaking with that one. I could even do something like that, because that's so awesome. And now if I would like to enter to the event that actually manages the who's ringing? Somebody is offering a beers to everyone. His phone is ringing. So if I double click that button now, what I get now is actually I jump to the side where I have the button click event, and I could now start typing the system and so on, like all the namespaces that I have. I have the IntelliSense for typing. Let's see if I find, let's say, not going there now. But anyway, so I have the IntelliSense for the C++ side, and that actually what I have on that side is a native C++. So it's really easy to actually start building the application from this point, and having and manage to leverage all the Windows, the C++ code bases that you have on that side. All right, and then we jump over here. That was something that we talked. All right, talking about Windows Runtime APIs. Everything that we have over here, the APIs, we have those for all of the languages, as I said. Everything like NFC the streams, notifications, all the contracts, those are also for the Windows, the HTML5 JavaScript side. So it's exactly the same. So don't confuse when we're talking about HTML5 and JavaScript, don't confuse that side to web browser applications. It's the same technology, same technique to build the application, but those are native applications. You could run something like with a phone gap or something like that, but it's much, much easier to actually what you do on HTML5, you define a style class which derives from the OS styles. And with that, you get all the functionalities that are built in. The buttons looks like exactly the same as the built-in ones that we have over here. On the WinRT side, need to skip that one. Missing this image again. Always look on the bright side of life. It's going to be a really smooth experience for the people that are watching that online. Ding, ding. All right. So if I would do the demo for the C#, it's the key thing for that one is that we have a keyword called async, which means that whenever we do some asynchronous calls, instead of, or maybe I just showed that really, really fast. No, maybe I'm not. I won't stay in time. I tried to see if I show that in the end of the day, so I won't shift the time schedule over here. So there is the keyword called await, which means that whenever you do a call, if it's a synchronous call, instead of doing the event handler for the asynchronous call, whenever that's ready and done, and you get the results, it goes to a different event handler, which is erased when that happens. So you need to tweak around with all of the different blocks of the code. With await keyword, you can actually have await, and then you have the call to asynchronous resources. Once that's done, it comes back to that same line where you were, and you don't need, underneath everything works as the same. But as a developer, you don't need to concentrate on that side at all. Quickly about projections, I already mentioned about this. The idea of projections is that you actually are coding against native APIs, but they look different. So it looks different when you're building JavaScript, C# or C++, but actually the implementation that is actually going to the OS APIs are the native ones, so you don't have overhead on that side. On the user experience side, we are going to get a lot of information about user experience in some time, but there is like 8 different traits for the Great Windows Store app. These are something that you should definitely look into. When you're building your app, think about, make a list of features, of OS features, on the platform features like search, live tiles, semantic zoom, all of this kind of stuff. Don't build your application in a way that we need to implement search even though it doesn't make any sense in our application. No. Make sure that you just check every single those features. Because, for example, when I was doing demos in Digi Expo, it's really easy to reference an application that has that aura and the experience is good. When we promote stuff on the Windows Store, we promote stuff that are good. When you submit something to the Windows Store certification, there are certain things that are automatically checked. What we don't check, if your UI sucks, you need to make sure that it obeys certain guidelines to make sure that the users are thinking when they use your application, wow, this is cool. Obviously, the search finds, I can find the search from there. When I did this semantic zoom thing, which is pretty cool on the start screen, hey, in this application it does this. Users are explorers. They want to test those out. They want to go those through. So leverage the Microsoft design. Think about that. Already talk about the being fast and fluent. So when you build your applications, think about that one thing leads to another in a way that it would be easy to navigate. It would be consistent with the other systems, or the OS itself. And concentrate on the content. Snap and scale beautifully. What that means, remember when I snap the Valios applications to the left-hand side, that's always 320 wide. That's always that width. So as a user, you can be sure that as a developer, you can be sure that the users are not scaling your applications to some size that you wouldn't know that. There are certain size, for example, in snapping, that you need to know that it's only 320 wide width. The width is only 320. But when you know that, you can also make sure that the experience in that snap mode is good. Your application can be always snap if the resolution of the device allows that. If you have a really old device that doesn't support resolution, the snap functionality is just disabled. But by default, your application can be snapped. Remember to check what kind of experience that is. There are some rules that you need to do, or guidelines that you should do, but at the same time, it helps you a lot to implement your application because you don't need to invent the wheel all over again. Use the right contracts. Think about, does it make sense to share something from my app? Yes. Sharing contract. Does it make sense to search something from my app? Yes. Search contract. Will the other applications be allowed to pick some information or contact or documentation from my application? Yes. File pickers. So all of this, think about the different scenarios. Is this relevant for our application? Could we do something that would activate the users to use more our application? Invest in a great tile, which I showed earlier on the live tiles that we have over here. And like the tiles are moving and everything, there are different information scrolling over there. I could also choose this one and choose that it needs to be smaller. Think about how you build your application in a smaller size live tile because the user has the freedom to choose so. How that looks in the bigger scale, like this. Which kind of content are you providing with the live tiles? One interesting thing that you also have is when you actually build an application. How many of you have played Angry Birds on your phone? How many of you have had the situation that you need to reinstall the application or reinstall a new phone? Couple. Oh, more. The problem is that once you reach that level 17 and you're like, woohoo, yeah, I'm a king in Angry Birds. And then you get your new phone, you download that application that you own, and it says, okay, let's start, level 1. That's not so good experience. On Windows 8, what you also have, and your application has too, is if you see it, yes, it's a roaming to the cloud, roaming settings. You can actually set settings in your application, and it is automatically roamed to the cloud underneath the user's credentials. So your application, even though you don't know the identity of the user, the framework will give the same settings for that user, no matter which device they are using. So if I'm loaning his Windows 8 device, put my own credentials, my Microsoft account over there, my experience comes alive on that machine. I get the same colors theme, I get the same settings, all my favorites in my browser and so on are there. If I want to install the application that I own, I can go to the store, choose show images, show like this. Let's go on this side. I can go to the store. In the store, I can choose my apps, and the text says your apps, but they are mine. What I can see also, all the devices that I have which has my Microsoft account. So this is not like because I'm a Microsoft that it's Microsoft account. It's the the Hotmail live account that you used to use. We just rebranded that to be one. So over there, I can choose different devices like the DP, Asus, Vivo, which is this one over here. I can see which applications are installed on that machine. So if I'm using his machine and I would like to have this one, that one, and this one installed over here, I could choose install, and now it starts to do that. Installing 2 apps, and now it goes forward. So you can do the same experience within your own applications. So when I'm downloading your application, I bought your application, it cost me €5. Now I'm using his laptop or tablet or whatever, Windows 8 device, with my account, my Microsoft account. I will download my application from the store. When I launch that application, your application can ask, is this user within this application set these settings ever before? And you will get from the roaming, from the framework, you will get the settings that are used on my machine. The application will get the same settings on that machine. So you can control that. It is not a database. You only have like 100 Ks of space to actually save the roaming settings. So it's like codes for settings or background background color, or some URI for images, or perhaps my password or some customer, my customer ID, which helps you to provide the full good experience for the users, because they don't need to log in again. They already logged in. You get the token from your backend system that Wallavaara has logged in. This is the token for this user. You don't say the password and account information. You save some token that you know on the backend. That's saved to the ROM settings. So if I'm using his laptop, using your application, I don't need to sign in with that machine either, because I already have done that. Really smooth way to actually have the experience for that one. And there was a H1 also, embrace Microsoft design principle. So leverage Microsoft design, embrace it. Probably because they wanted to have 8 boxes over there and they only have 7, so they added the last one. Never know. But it's an important thing to actually emphasize. You should do that. Something about the app execution model, which is familiar if you have done Windows Phone development earlier. No. First, we're talking about Windows Store app. So every single app is a personal. If I buy an app, it is mine. I can use that on all of those up to 5 machines. I can use that applications within my profile. I own that. If somebody else will buy the same application, which is already, when I buy that, it is downloaded to that machine. When somebody else is logging on that machine, they don't see the application that I own. But if they go to store and download that same application, what actually happens is that is already downloaded to that machine, so it won't be downloaded again. the user just get the rights to use that. So the registries will be updated, and therefore the new user will get the same application. The good thing on this is that there is no need to download those twice, but still once you, because you own those personally, they are your application. The reason is also because of the roaming. Think about the experience if you're using some application in different devices. The key thing on that side is to actually is that it is attached to the Microsoft account, which makes sure that the experience is as good as possible. App manifest and capabilities. Earlier we talked about GPS when we talk about phone. If you have on tablets and some other machines, you have GPS too. That's only one thing that you have. But if you want to use those, if you need to use some of the capabilities from the system, like camera or GPS or internet connections, you always need to ask, in a way, the permission from the users. So, for example, and there's also, if you use searching capabilities, there are different new additional requirements when you certify your application. I will talk more about that when I'm talking about store. For example, all of the applications have the capability of internet. Are we sharing? Are we sharing? No, we're not sharing. I knew that because I couldn't see the boundaries anymore. I'm getting pretty good on this. There we go. Now we're sharing again. So on this side, if I just open up a new app, going over here, let's just take a store app, take that grid or blank one, and just run the application. Something to note is that go away. We have over here in project store, we have edit app manifest. In the manifest, we define different kind of assets for our application, but there's also the tab for capabilities. The internet connection is on by default. If your application is fully offline, doesn't do anything to internet, it's a game that you download, play it, and it doesn't do anything outside the application, it is still on by default. Which means that you need to provide a privacy statement, how you are going to use the network to the user. If that's your case, that's the most common rejection reason from the store, that people have not provided that. Even though they are not using the internet, but they have the capability on, they need to fulfill the requirements that are attached to that capability. If you have a GPS, you need to explain the users how you are using that information. Are you sucking them, or are you just tracking their when they are driving a car or something like that? For example, if I click something on this side, let's say location, and running this application, nice thing that what Visual Studio does, some of those functionalities on the settings, this is my application, it doesn't have anything on it's empty canvas, but when I swipe from the right hand side, that was the place where the settings were. Always. Click settings, that's my application settings. Not so much stuff over there at the moment, but if I click permissions, I can actually see that once I added that one of the tabs to the location, it also added this selection for me as a user to choose whether I would allow that the location is on or not. You need to ask the permission from the users or from the systems through the capabilities that you are going to use. For example, in this case, you're going to use the GPS. But at the same time, you also need to make sure that the application respond in a correct way if it's denied. For example, hey, you're using our awesome application, but for some reason we can't get the information for that one. So please, would you allow us to use that and have that enabled in a way that we could actually do the thing that our application is so good at. All right. Last thing that I want to quickly talk about is the processes. I already talked about this, and each of the applications are isolated from each other. You talk to each other through contracts. When you launch your application, hopefully it's the code is running after that, so nothing's wrong over there. If you go away from the application as you go in phone and it's not visible, it's not either of the snippet one or the main one, your application is not running. On modern application on Windows 8, they are suspended. Remember this when you build your application. Why? Because in most of the cases, if the user doesn't see your application, they don't use your application. If they don't use your application, why to consume the power and the processor power on that side and the memory? Remember this. Another thing is also, if the application is suspended, you need to act as that would be that it's terminated, because you could end up to a situation that the system needs more memory and it starts to free that memory from the stack of the application that are suspended. That's if you have built Windows Phone application, you already know this. That's exactly the same model is on Windows 8 on the modern UI applications. For the Windows Azure mobile services, we actually have a separate session about this later on this day, so I won't go into that. But in a nutshell, it's a service which allows you really easily to build up a dynamic backend system for your phone applications or your Windows 8 applications. But Teemu is going to talk about that more in the later on during this day. And I think my time is also up. So with that, just want to wrap up because I'm going to talk about the store later on. Once again, it's something new. It's something that the touch is in really important role, but it's not only about the touch. But if you design your application for touch, you're really good to go. Think about that you have a lot of different users. It's not only the tablet users, it's also the users that are using that on PC. And there is actually a requirement. Your application can't be only touch only. It needs to support mouse and keyboard too. But that's, if you use the built-in controls, that's built in. About the store, not going to talk about yet. I saved all the best goodies to end. But as I talked earlier about the store itself, that the scale is huge. It is huge opportunity to you guys to actually leverage that, and you shouldn't miss that. Many different ways to build those applications. If you want more about the HTML5, that's your way. You can do that. Same native applications. If you build C#, XAML, you can do that, or you could use XAML and C++. And one thing I didn't mention is that you can even also write, if you're building games, using DirectX. I didn't have that over there because then you're really close to the metal and under the hood, and therefore you don't have the same framework support on that side. It's a totally different world, but some of you may have used those technologies, and those are also supported on Windows 8. So with that, I think now we have a break.